All right, so that's a lot of information with simple and compound, and I'm guessing that you might not be 100% clear on it. So let's take an opportunity now to go back and just clarify some things. In their simplest form, what when we're talking about meter, simple means divisible by 2. So here's the beat, and it's divisible by 2. Most music you're going to listen to on the radio these days, and even a lot that you're going to perform, is going to be in simple. So to clarify, we talked about duple, triple, quadruple. All right. What's beautiful about simple is that duple, well, hey, that means 2. Simple, hey, that means 3. Or triple, hey, that means 3. And quadruple, hey, that means 4. Those are the numbers that are going to be in a simple time signature. Now, the number that's going to be on bottom is what's going to be the beat note. So if it's an eighth note, it's going to be an 8. If the beat note is a 16th note, it's going to be a 16. If the beat note is a quarter note, quarter, right, 1 quarter, 1/4, is going to be a fourth. If it's a half note, half is worth 2, then it's going to be a half note. So what that means is this is the number that gets the beat on the bottom, and the number up top is how many beats there are in that measure. Okay, so when we deal with these measures, we're going to see normal notes that are getting the beat. What I mean by normal is we're not going to be dealing with any dots. Okay, it's all going to be, flag 16th notes and flag 8th notes and just straight beam quarter notes. So this is simple, and the forms of simple are duple, triple, and quadruple. So hopefully that one is pretty clear, and if you can just commit to understanding that one, then we can move on into a little bit more complicated compound. So here's your simple duple, like we talked about, your simple triple, your simple quadruple. Now this shows them with all 4s. It doesn't have to be 4s. All right, now when we look in compound, we see the number 6, 9, 12. And, this isn't math class, but what are those all multiples of? Well, 6 is a multiple of 3, 9 is a multiple of 3, 12 is a multiple of 3. So if we think about duple means 2, triple means 3, and quadruple means 4, then we're going to remember that here from simple. And now we're going to shift that over to compound. When we deal with compound, we deal with beats that are divided in 3s. And you might be thinking, well, that's probably not nearly as common. But in fact, it's very common. If you think back to when you were a child and you sang lots of songs like the itsy bitsy spider climbed up the spout again, right? That has a rhythm that is divisible by 3. So we would call that compound. So when we look at compound, the number on bottom is actually not the beat note, it's actually the subdivision, which gets a little tricky. Subdivision, you recall, means taking a rhythm and dividing it. Okay, so instead of quarter notes of the beat, but the subdivision might be eighth notes, or it might be 3-note groupings. Okay, so that's subdivision, dividing the note into equal parts. So in compound, we have what's on bottom is the subdivision. So when you see the number on top, it's going to be a multiple of 3. So duple, 2 times 3 is 6. Triple, 3 times 3 is 9. Quadruple, 4 times 3 is 12. So 6, 9, and 12 are going to be the numbers that you utilize in compound, period. Now what goes on bottom? The same numbers that went on bottom in simple. All right, they just mean something slightly different. So you can still use your 4, you can still use your 8, and you can still use your 16 or your 2. It doesn't really matter. Let's just use 16 for an example here. Okay, so what we're showing you now on bottom is the subdivision. So when you think 4, that's a quarter note, right? We already learned that when we were talking about simple. But you got to draw 3 of them. So now when we draw 3 quarter notes, if we were to fit those into one rhythm, what would it be? It would be a dotted half note, right? And if we were to look at eighth notes, 3 eighth notes, well, what rhythm can fit 3 eighth notes in it? Well, that would be a dotted quarter note, all right? So what that means is there are 3 dotted quarter notes in the measure. And if we divide those up, that would be 3 times, 3 dotted quarter notes just divides into 9 eighth notes. There's your 9/8. Okay, so it's a little bit tricky to understand because in simple, the number on bottom is just the beat. Easy enough. But in compound, it's actually the subdivision. So I think that another easy way to think about this is wouldn't it be grand if we could go back in time and instead of saying 6/8, we could say 2 dotted quarter note? Because that would make so much more sense than looking at 6/8. But this is the way we've chosen to notate music for centuries, so we need to understand what it means. All right, 6/8 means there are eight eighth notes in the or there are eighth notes as the beat note, really the subdivision, and there are 6 of them in the measure. But really, what that means is there's 2 beats in the measure, and the beat is a dotted quarter note. It divides into 3 eighth notes, hence 6/8. So I understand that compound can get kind of tricky. The easiest thing for you to remember with compound is you just have to recall that the numbers that are going to be on top are always going to be a 6, I apologize, a 9, or a 12. And if you can remember that 6, 9, and 12 are your numbers, when you see something, you know, bam, that's compound. All right? And then the numbers that go below are what we call the subdivision. So rather than seeing, oh yeah, 16 note gets the beat and there's 9 of them, not exactly. 16 means 3/16 notes are the grouping, and 3/16 notes group into a dotted eighth note. So compound gets kind of tricky. If you need any help, feel free to private message me or email me, or post something on Canvas, and I could try to explain a little bit further. But I hope this helps clarify the difference between simple and compound time signatures.